Today, we are looking at biotic factors and how they affect ecosystems. Before we do that though, I'd like to see if you can remember anything from last time. When you get to the questions, just pause the film and see if the answers pop into your head. Otherwise, it might be a slower process, and the answers need to swim to the surface like slow, lumbering fish you didn't even know were there. Quick quiz. Number 1. Name 4 abiotic factors that affect ecosystems. 2. Name 3 animals you would find in a woodland ecosystem. Number 3. Name 3 animals you would find in a coastal ecosystem. Number 4. What is this a picture of? Okay, pause the film, and when you've had to think about it, start the film again and see if you've got your answers right. Now, the 4 abiotic factors that we talked about last time were light, temperature, water, and air. So they're the non-biological factors in an ecosystem. But there are others. During the last film, I mentioned seasons or time, because as the seasons change, so the temperature changes, the amount of light changes. So time is an abiotic factor. There's also one that's occurred to me since then, is altitude. The higher up you are, then the colder the temperature is. So altitude is another factor, and so is space. Abiotic factors are the non-biological factors in an ecosystem, and probably if you think about it, you can probably think of some more that I haven't mentioned. Name 3 animals you would find in a woodland ecosystem. The ones that spring to mind are ants, squirrels, cuckoos. I have seen a snake in the woods actually, a very, very small one, and I have seen a slow worm as well. Name 3 animals you would find in a coastal ecosystem. What about crabs, mussels, gulls, so herring gulls, blackback gulls. And what is this a picture of? This is a picture of bluebells. If you remember, bluebells come out at a particular time of year before the leaves have formed on the trees, when the temperature's got a little bit warmer and the nights got a little bit shorter. Biotic factors are caused by other living organisms present in the community. Competition. Individual plants and animals may have to compete with each other for food, light, water, and space. Predation. A predator is an animal that feeds by hunting and killing its prey. The prey must escape from the predator if it is to survive. Disease. Some microbes cause disease. A parasite is an organism that lives in or on another organism called a host. The parasite gets its food from the host. Grazers. These are animals that eat plants. We sometimes call them herbivores. Decomposers. These are microbes that break down dead and decaying material. They are important in the cycling of nutrients. And the effects of humans. Human activity affects the survival of other living organisms. Industry, farming, forestry, transport, and housing have all affected the survival of organisms by changing their habitats. Which is about as boring as the pages of the biology textbook I just read that from. The book has diagrams though, and small grainy pictures of course, but to understand ecology you have to observe life and understand how it is. What I want to do is to take some of these biotic factors and discuss the ideas around them. It could be that this raises more questions than it answers, but I think ecology is that sort of a subject, and it will give your mind something to think about anyway. Our first biotic factor is competition. Plants and animals compete for light, water, food, space, mates, etc. On most natural history programs, there are lots of memorable clips of males competing for mates. On a more mundane level, at this time of year, if you look at the grass verges or roundabouts, even at the pavements, you'll see plants vying with each other for a crack in the road or a piece of concrete. Often we think of life as being fragile and delicate, but maybe it is fierce and determined and will survive almost anywhere. The idea that life competes ferociously may be an obvious but incorrect conclusion. In the BBC Horizon television series Nice Guys Finish First, Richard Dawkins, a well-known biologist, discusses selfishness and cooperation, arguing that evolution often favours cooperative behaviour. So maybe competition is not as obvious as it seems, and that cooperation can often work better. Predators. This really is the stuff that nature documentaries are made of. There is so much drama with a female polar bear, say, hunting for food for her cute little pups, and so much cruelty with the seal that is eventually slaughtered to ensure their survival. Let me just go back to Long Rock though. Right, the water vole is Britain's fastest declining wild mammal, having undergone serious population crashes during the 20th century. This animal is protected in English law as a priority conservation species. These charming creatures live in burrows in the bank of Swellcliffe Brook, feeding on plants along the river channels. I've never seen one, of course, but they are there. But listen to this. Fundamental threats to the species include predation, primarily by the introduced American mink. The most rapid period of decline was during the 1980s and 1990s, as American mink spread. Between 1989 and 1998, the population fell by almost 90%. So at Long Rock, the water vole survives because it hasn't really got any predators. But a predator such as a mink could easily wipe out the whole colony. It also reminds me of the dodo. Now, the story about the dodo is that Dutch sailors landed on the island of Mauritius and they discovered a huge flightless bird called the dodo. It hadn't got any predators, and sailors ate it. They wiped it off the island until there were no more of them. I subsequently heard a story which was they weren't just hunted to extinction and eaten by the sailors, but the dodo didn't taste very nice. And so the sailors just killed it for sport. But the truth may be a little bit different. If we go to this website and scroll down, there's the island of Mauritius. There's the picture of the dodo. Let me read you what it says here. The problem was more likely to be the ship's rats and other animals they brought with them, which spread across the island eating dodo eggs and outcompeting the bird for food. The last confirmed sightings came in the 1660s. The dodo was lost forever. It wasn't the sailors that just ate the dodo. They introduced rats, and the rats competed with the dodo for food, and one of the things they would have easily been able to do was to eat the dodo eggs, and so the dodo was lost forever. Our next biotic factor is disease. Some microbes cause disease. Obviously at this time everyone is aware how diseases can spread and affect people. They also affect plants and animals. I remember when I was growing up there was a disease called Dutch elm disease, which wiped out most of the elm trees where I was living. I had a couple of elm trees in my garden growing up. They became diseased with Dutch elm disease and had to be cut down. There was another disease. In the 1950s, a disease called myxomatosis was deliberately introduced to the rabbit population in Europe. The natural host were petty and brush rabbits in America, which got only a mild disease. For European rabbits, it was almost always fatal. The disease virtually wiped out the rabbit population in Europe and in Australia. The rabbits that survived developed some immunity, and rabbit populations have increased dramatically since then. Parasites. I don't really want to say anything about parasites. Now, if you look on YouTube and you type in botfly or you type in tapeworm, you will have some horrible videos which you can watch. I was watching one a moment ago which was extracting a parasite from the nose of an 8-week-old kitten, which was horrible, but I'll spare you that one. Okay, grazers, decomposers, and the effects of humans. In Blean Woods, the ants and mushrooms dispose of things almost in front of your eyes. Obviously there are bacteria too, and we'll learn about those later. Grazers or herbivores. Rabbits, sheep, goats, horses, cows. And the effect of humans. Let's have a look at this website. How many species are we losing? It makes it clear on here that we're not exactly sure how many species that we've got. Scientists were startled in 1980 by the discovery of a tremendous diversity of insects in tropical forests. In one study of just 19 trees in Panama, 80% of the 1,200 beetle species discovered were previously unknown to science. Alright, so we don't seem to know how many species there are. If there are 100 million different species on Earth, and the extinction rate is just 0.01% per year, at least 10,000 species go extinct every year. But the fact is that because of our effect, we are causing a massive increase in the natural extinction of species. The rapid loss of species we are seeing today is estimated by experts to be between 1,000 and 10,000 times higher than the natural extinction rate. Let's go down. Now, there have been extinction events in the past. At 160 million years ago, there was at the end of the Jurassic, the dinosaurs were wiped out. And there have been other extinction events. Now what is going on at the moment, this is often referred to as the sixth extinction crisis, after the 5 known extinction waves in geological history. But unlike the mass extinction events in geological history, the current extinction is one for which a single species, ours, appears to be almost wholly responsible. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.